talking about how we can have effective Power BI reporting and what is the key benefits of Power BI in terms of Excel, other things and all. So I am a Microsoft certified trainer and have a lot of trainings and also do some custom development for my customers. I also be contented using my Twitter handle and my blog. I update my blog quite frequently. Okay, so goal for this session is quite simple. I want to just tell you that it's a very generic session. It's not very code intensive. It's something simple. And we do use a user scenario, so you're able to stick with me. And first thing, we'll talk about the key features of Power BI. And there are four pillars for Power BI solutions. Okay, the first one is the data transformation, which will I show in detail in my demo. Then the data modeling and DAX calculations, as well as the visuals and reports. Okay, and in my throughout my demo, I have a very less slide, more into demo. So I will show you what are the key solutions, how we can use Power BI using those four tools. Okay. And then how to build a great reports. Okay, so let's think. So let me show you what is Power BI. Now, Power BI is a suite of different tools. So first we have a Power BI desktop designer, which is a desktop app, just like your Word and Excel. And it is a download to your local machine. It's a installation on your machine. The second is a Power BI service, which is it's a cloud service where you can create your dashboards and reports. Okay. And third one is your mobile version. So you can share things in the web, tablet, and as well as on mobile services. Okay. Now, I won't give too much information about the historical technology which Microsoft rolled out previously. But if you have seen this earlier, we used to have something called as Power Pivot. We have a Power Query, Power View, and Power Map, this thing, but it's mostly add-ins and it's not very stable. And that's why Microsoft has created some tool called Power BI, which is much more stable and much more powerful than those four tools. Okay, so want to highlight, I'm not a licensing expert, but I just want to share that there are three versions of Power BI. I won't go to the third one. For our this particular scope, we talk about Power BI Free Edition and Power BI Pro Edition. Okay, and these are the things which you can see that in Power BI Free edition, you have only data limit is 1 GB per user. And also the data refresh in free edition is 8 times in a day. Also, you can't do much sharing. There's no security at all. So if your company is a very legal company or have a high security, Power BI free edition is not a right choice for you. Okay, that's simple as that. Then we have another edition called as Power BI Pro, where it's a 10 GB per user, and you have a data refresh which is hourly. Okay, and then you can have all the things which Power BI free edition doesn't have. You can have your real-time data set, you can share the data with your users, and you have a security. Okay, so these are key features of Power BI Free Edition and Pro Edition. Okay, so just want to share that in my demo, I'll be using, I'm not using anyone, I'm just using Free Edition to show you. But mostly for any organization which are required security, I still strongly recommend to go for Power BI Pro, which is much more secure and much more easier in terms of secure things. Okay, so
What do you mean 10
yes.
GB per user? How it can be measured? Can you quickly tell me that?
Oh, 10 GB is if the user upload the data, his limit is 10 GB. So for example, you have 1,000 users, so you have 10 terabyte of your data. So it's per user.
Okay, okay. So it can be pooled. Okay.
It's a pooled, yeah. So if you have 10,000 user, 1,000 user, then each user has pooled data.
Okay, okay, okay. Got it.
Okay. Yes, thanks for asking this thing. Okay, so again, I want to show you what is the main thing. I'm not going for all details here. Just want to show you what the things, what Power BI you can do. So first one is the data transformation. Now, what happens that you get data from different data sources, and it's raw data. You can't find. It's very difficult to find data. Now, in my example, I have already have an Excel file, so it's very easy. But if your data is from different data sources, maybe one from Azure, one from AWS and all, then massaging data and making right sense is maybe a big challenge. Okay, for my example, I'm putting a very simple example here. But also what Power BI does actually, when you pull the data, it will try to detect the kind of data type. For example, you have data which is kind of a date field. It will try to see whether it's a date field or not. If it's a numeric field, it will show, it will check detect. It not be correct, but it will give some kind of hints. Okay, this data type is correct or not. Okay, it's quite smart in that way. Okay, this first thing is a transform data. The second, then we use this screen in my demo, that we're using transform data through which you can change your data types and other things. The second is on the data modeling. One of the key feature, if you have anyone in the audience know that some kind of normalization. So here in data model we do normalization of the tables. Okay, and it will really help you to make your data relations and your reports much more simpler and faster. Okay, I will show you in my demo, so at least you can gauge that what I'm talking about. So data model and the data transform is one of the key thing for any BI solution. I'm not talking about Power BI, any BI solution, the data transfer, data change data and data model is one of the key feature of any BI solution. Okay, so we have this screenshot where I have some simple data. I have some reports. So I have some data relationship with different tables. So this is a good data model. Okay, so I tell you what is not a good and what is not a bad. So I'll be sure in my example in my demo soon. Okay, then we have something called as DAX calculations. Okay, so if you have I have seen a lot of my customers and also even my team, they never use DAX calculations. They use just visuals. Now visual is the last thing you can ever do. The main thing, you must have a data model. The data should be cleaned, and then you write some DAX formulas to make your data much more simpler and easier for dashboards. Okay, so one thing to note that this DAX is just not a Mac, it's not for Power BI. It can be used by other services as well. Okay, uh, also can be used in the Power Platform as well. Okay, so quite simple, but you have to understand how things, because if you're completely new to DAX, may be a bit challenging for you. So I'm not giving the DAX lesson here. I just want to share you that if you have a very good data model, then you must have a DAX calculation. Okay, and the last, maybe I put it not last, but it's a very important thing. You have must have a proper visual. I have shared a couple last year that which visual is much easier for the users. Okay, and you can share your story as a data story. It's very easy for you to visualize. Okay, and the visual should not be cluttered. Okay, if you too much information in that visual, is very difficult to understand. Okay, and it should be stand out. It be simple and professional, and you must have your dashboard and report should be able to understand in 10 to 20 seconds. If your report is too much information, always very nice, but you can't understand what you want to understand from the visual, it doesn't make any sense. Very important, you must understand from your visual what you want to tell a story about. Okay, so there are few things I have to share with you on this. And this is something we will work on. This is some dashboard we will make. Although I'm not making a very nice, I just want to show how you can use a dashboard like that. Okay, it's very simple. I have add some icons and all to make it more easy to understand. But I will showing a step by step how you can make this kind of really impressive dashboards using 4 tools which I mentioned. The your data transfer, your model, your DAX calculation, and the visuals. Okay, so right time for demo. Okay, let me show my screen now, and I'll be showing my Power BI desktop. Okay, so this is my Power BI desktop. I hope you can see my screen. It's blinking, so I don't know what happened. Pio, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen blinking.
Okay, yeah, good. So one thing to note that Power BI, the Power BI desktop is always have a monthly refresh, which means they're adding more features. Okay, so I will request that you subscribe to the Power BI blog where they keep telling you what new features they're adding, and really good features they're adding on a monthly basis. Okay, so let me show you. I'm not showing you the entire thing about Power BI. I'm showing you how we can do the our 4 steps, that is using the transform data, the data model, DEX, and the reports. So a lot of people go to get data. Now, get data is a good, but you might get some issues because if data is not clean, you will get some errors. So as a best practice, which I always use for any BI solution, I use transform data. I click on the transform data. I will then you can see some data sources that I can see news source and also see the different kind of data source which Power BI can use. Okay, so I have a different get data from different places. I can get from databases, your normal databases. I can go to
Arrow,
normal files.
arrow.
Yes.
I think we cannot see your
Oh,
the.
okay, sure. Maybe I okay, let me show my other screen. Maybe it's not popping up an other window. Let me show you. I the screen. Okay, I think you can see the screen now. Pio, can you just confirm?
We can see the Power Query editor.
Yeah, Power Query
Right.
Editor. That is the one.
Right.
Okay, so mostly don't use the get data, because get data you might get some errors. But what I'm going to show you that you can get data sources from different places. Okay, you can get data from your Excel, your Power Platform. There's new service which has come. Data, your CDS, other things. But for my example, it's a very simple example. I want to go by Excel. So what want to show you that I can want to connect to a data, which is I have a simple Excel file. Okay, so you can see I have 4 sheets in that Excel file. So I want to select 4 sheets. Okay, I will give you the what are our use case for this table about this scenario. So we got a request from a customer that he want to have a dashboard where he want to get some data about the entire sales for entire organization. He also want to get some number of items sold for the organization and the average sales per day. Okay, so he gave me this data set. So now we are going to step 1, which is transform data. It's not correct data. We have to transform it. So what I'm going to do, this is a file, and I found that the column 1, column 2 doesn't make any sense for my reporting. So what I can do in during the step one, which is transform data, I've been shaping my data and making it more simpler to see the data for my reports. So now you can see in customer list, I have a customer name, my first column, and second column is the distribution channel. Okay, I also doesn't make any sense for customer list. This is list came from my customer, so I just remove it. So what I'm doing, I just making some massaging the data so it is good for reporting. Okay, so second table I see. Again, same thing. It's a column. It's column one. It doesn't make any sense for me reporting. What I can do, I can make use the first row as headers. Beautiful, it's done. So I will see to go to regions. Same thing. Regions have column one, column two, column five. Doesn't make any sense. So I do some kind of modifications. I make the first row as headers, and I have all my details here. Okay, let's go to sales order. Now sales order in is nice, everything in a proper shape. So what I'm going to do, I just go to close my this data model. So this point of time, I am not committed. So I'm going to commit so that is saved into Power BI model. Okay, so now I'm going to Power BI model. Okay, so now I under Power BI desktop. Okay, I'm not in the Power BI editor. So you can see that I have some tables now. I have some tables which I have pulled in my Power BI model. Okay, so I can see all my tables. I can see regions and sales order. But I found this format I don't like. It is a very difficult to for my users to see. So what I can do some formatting. I can make a formatting as a simple like this 14th March 2001. This is the format of my report. So this is my report I will get. Okay, I also want to use in this information what is the data size. So you see that you have a January 2015 till the data is still 2016. Right, once 1st July 2016. Now what I want to do, I'm creating something called as a data date table. Date table is not there, and for our any scenario you must have date table. So what I want to do, I will create a new date table. Okay, so I am again going to query editor. I am going to transform data. Okay, I will change my screen so you can able to see. So what I'm trying to show that for any report, we must have a a date table. Okay, now this is here. This is my Power BI Power Query editor, and I want to create date table. So what I will do, I will create. I go to blank query. Okay, and here I will go to advanced editor. Okay, maybe you're not can't see. I will show you how the date table works. I just pardon me. I just show you the Power BI query. Okay, so I have, if you see that I have added some kind of uh, query inside query editor. Okay, don't worry, I will share all the details to you after this session. My PPT and all the PBX file I'll share with you. Don't worry, I will show everything. So what I'm going to want to do that in my sales order, the data size is from 2015 to 2016. So what I will do, I will create a data table which is from 1st January to 2015. Okay, now this is AM code. I am not an expert in AM code, but I just copied from somewhere where I can use a date table. And all the Power BI solutions, I always use date table, but it is very useful for your reporting. Okay, and my another end report is 31st of December 2016. Okay, and your financial year, it depends on each organization. I put the 4th. number 4, which is April, which is mostly all the organization have 4th is a financial year. So I just click number 4 and I'll click on invoke. You see my new table is created using M code. So what I'm going to do, I just click on the date table now. This is my date table, which I will use for my relationships in my data model. Okay, don't worry, maybe it takes some time to understand, but I have to make some relationship between these 4 tables. So again, I'm to close my Power BI desktop, and soon let me switch to Power BI desktop screen. Okay, so one thing we have done, first up we have done, we have created transform our data. Our columns were not corrected, and we have a new column, a new table called as data date table. So I'm going to step 2. The step 2 is making relationships. So this is the model, data model. Okay, so I can see that this is my fact table. Fact table is your transition table, and these other 4 are your lookup tables. Okay, now I told you that Power BI are able to detect the columns. For example, my column name is same, customer name and customer name, so it's able to detect. Okay, same thing in my in my product description, able to detect because it's the same name is there. Okay, same name. But if I go to regions and date, it's not mapped because it can't find the same name. So I know in my data model that in my region field, we have something called as delivery region, which is has a short name, short code. I'll show you in my table first. And also I'll be in my order date, I have this relationship. So you see, this is a I have all my relationship in my table. Now this is a very simplified way, but in normally in your solutions, it may take maybe 2 weeks or maybe 1 month to create a data model. Now this is short time I'm showing you how you can create a simple data model with only 4 tables. Okay, so I'm done with that. So I created a simple, I have done past step 2, which is my data model. Okay, now I'm going for create some DAX calculations. So what I have to do, I create few a blank table which I will store as all my measures, all my DAX calculations. So I put key I call it key measures. Key measures and put a blank column. Okay, and create. And soon you will get a new table which is called as a measures table, which has no column. So what in my scenario, right, what customer is looking for some sales, the unique order and average sales for each seller. So what I can do, because in this model, in the data model, I don't have these kind of calculations. So I have to, in my step 3, I have to create some DAX calculations. So let me create some simple calculations. Okay, so first table I first measure is my sales. Okay, in here I will create a simple DAX formula called as sum, and it has its own intelligence. Okay, so here I can go to sales order, and I will look for the sales order, and I look for the line total, which is my total revenue of my for this particular users. So this is my total line total. Here line total is my total sales for this 2 years. Okay, so I have done it. Okay, so I created a new measure called as sales. I'm going to delete this column, which is not useful for me. I'm deleting, and I double click on the fields. Double click, and you see you get a calculator field, which means it's a calculations which I have created. Now I can create some other measures which my customer is looking for. He want to look for some units sold for each order. So I'm going to create another measure called as units sold. So very simple formulas I'm using, not rocket science, very simple one. So I'm again using a sum formula. I'm using some formula, and I will again use a sales table. I use a sales table, and I will use a order quantity. Order quantity. Yeah, order quantity. Okay, so number of units sold for across 2 years. Okay, I'll create two more measures which is required for my customer. So he want to have unique orders. So I'm going to create a unique order. Unique order, and this time I will use another DAX formula which is called as count rows. So all the sales order for entire sales table, I want to get the entire details, entire row. So in my sales order, I will give you the data. It has around 7,000 rows. So what I'm doing, I calculate 7,000 rows here. So I use sales order. Now this is my the second last DAX calculation for this demo. The last DAX formula I want to use is called as the average sale per day. So I'm using average, sorry, here I go to average sales per day. Okay, I'm using another DAX formula called as average X. Okay, average X, and I'm using another formula with that is called as values, and I'm putting a date table. I told you it's so important to have date table. Okay, then I'll be using a measure which I already used called as sales. So I use sales. I'm done with that. So to recap, what I have done, I have transformed my data from an Excel file, make it easy for my users. Then I also make some relationships so that it works fine. Very important. And third one, which I'm doing, I'm creating some calculations which my customers looking for. And very important that these three are most important for any BI solution. Okay, if you just yet if your user tell me I've created a visual, then you can ask him that have you created a data model, have you created DAX calculation? He may not even answer, because this is the foundation of BI solutions. Cleaning data, shaping data, and data model is key for any data solutions. Okay, now I'm good. I have already created, I have not created any visual yet, but I did my homework. I already cleaned my data. I already have some relationship with my data. I have some DAX calculation, three things that I've already done. Now it's easy peasy for me to create visuals. Okay, so what I'm going to show you that I'm going to create a date. Okay, and I will use a hierarchy, remove the date, and I will use a table format. Okay, this is my table format, and I will go, and because I already have my calculations, right? I just drag sales here. Okay, then I can just change to stacked column chart. Now you see how easy is for me to create a date, my calculation, and I put it into in my report now. So what is visual is telling me that the sales done from last 2015 to 2016 each day. It's so powerful. If you do in Excel, maybe it takes 2-3 weeks. But in Power BI, it's much simpler because I have already created a data model. I have already created some DAX calculations. Okay, so this is the one requirement for my customers looking for. Another thing,
One quick doubt here. So
yes,
the date format, will it appear according to the region settings in the
yes,
end
yes.
users?
It
Okay.
will if you look for the end user, if the again it depends on if the region. If maybe using French region, then it will reflect, and maybe the end user in maybe Singapore, they will see the French format. So it depends on the locales.
Mhm.
Depends on the locales. Okay, so
Okay.
I'm using English format, Singapore English format, so it will show in that way.
Okay. So earlier you formatted, right, some date format in the calculated something said DAX function.
Yeah,
So
I
it
use
won't
some
that
DAX.
that won't affect, right, for the end users since
It
you.
won't affect. It won't
Mhm.
affect.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
So
Thank you.
why I want to stress again and again, the date table is one of the key thing for any reports, and that's why many customers they asked me to create a report, and they told me where is your source data? Where is a date table? I said we don't have any date table, so I have to go to their model where the last date, end date, and then I can have to calculate here. So date table is one of the most important thing for any BI solution. Okay, I'm just I'm because I have burnt many weekends, weekdays that to get the date data from the customer, which they can't give me any information. So I have to create my own date table. Okay. Yes. Any other further questions? So I can move. Okay, so I'm going to show another thing which is easier for your users. So I have for this sales, right? 10 million, whatever. So what the customer is looking for, they want to as a dashboard as a card. Okay, this is a 10 million, 11 million total sales they have. Okay, so now this is a very big card, right? So what I can do some formatting. I can do formatting, and I can reduce the size from 45 to 25. You see, okay. And the customer also want to get a unique order, sales order, average sales. Now I can drag drop easy, but I mean to save my time, I will just copy paste. I just copy and paste, just like your word. Copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. You see, within few seconds I have created a card. Now whatever I will do, rather than sales, I'll be using unique order. You see, it's so simple. I'm using DAX calculation. I have a data model is clean. So you see, within few seconds I can create my dashboard. Okay, the second one is the sales unit sold. So here's here unit sold. So easy, right? And the last one is my average sales. So here I have my average sales. You see, that it's so easy to create a DAX calculation if you have your data model and your DAX calculation is already inbuilt. So after your visual is easy peasy thing, because you already created a data model and DAX calculation which user is looking for, the customer is looking for. Okay. So now I want to give another visual. Now this is very simple visual. This is a very simple visual, and in one glance, user can see. He can see the sales data for each year in each month. Okay. Again, I will go and create. I'll go to the distribution channel. The distribution channel is whether it's online, or he went to the shop, wholesale, or he went to some export, whatever it is, different from the customers. So what I can do now is I have already have the distribution channel. I can just drag my DAX calculation, my measure here. Okay, my measure for each channel, and I can make as a donut chart. You see, donut chart. Now this is not useful for me. Maybe customer doesn't like this thing. So I can change a formatting. I can change my legend to be null. I don't want to show this thing. I also see that the sales distribution channel is pretty big. So again, I can do some change my formatting. I can from 14 I can make to 11. Okay. Again, we use in Word. I just copy paste. I copy this visual. I use this visual and copy paste again. Okay. So what is different? Different is I have to change. From I already know the display channel. I want to get the warehouse cost, which is in my, which is under my warehouse code cost. So what I do, I just change it and delete it. You see, in few seconds, I have changed my visual. Okay, so in sales by discipline channel, sales by the warehouse code. Okay, so maybe each company have different warehouse code, so you can see it. The last one is a region. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll go to region and I will go and get the just let me close it. I go to region and I will go in the legend. I click here, then I have my region as well. So you see, within few seconds, because my data model is simple and efficient, I can have a very easy data model and easy graph to visualize. Okay, so it's very simple, very easy to do. The last thing, maybe last two things he want to do, my customer, he want to see each region as a map. So what I will do, I go to the map visual. I click the map visual. I enlarge it. Okay. And I will go by name, the name of my region. And these are all my US region. Okay. Very important to note that in this data table, which my customer has given, he never gave me any latitude or longitude. Okay. Power BI mostly works best if you use a latitude or longitude. But if you see my data model, if you see that in my data model, this in region, the customer give a right names, which state. So it's easy for me. The one thing to note that if a customer give you and the any use case give a wrong spelling, so your data model may not work properly. So this is a good data model because everything is correct. So location may not work. So you have to correct it. Maybe you have to put the date properly. And if you know latitude and longitude, then it's best to do it. Okay. So this is the thing which I have already created, a very simple. And the last visual which he's looking for is uh, the year filter. So okay, so I have a year filter in my date table, which I showed you. Date table is very crucial. So I'll go to year filter here. Okay, and I will make as a slicer. I make a slicer. Okay, in this slicer, I will change some few settings. I make it as a horizontal to vertical. Okay. Okay, and in my data, in my raw data, there are some blank fields. So what I can do, I can just filters where there's no blank fields. Okay, then I can do filtering. Okay, now our data model and our visuals are correct. Okay, so I will show you a simple thing. Let me go to year 2015. You see, my visuals change completely. Your sales, your unique order, your unit sold, everything is changed. Even your sales by date also changed. If I go by 2016, your visual also changed. Okay, so these are few things, very effective way to create your data model, your DAX calculation, and write visuals to create. Okay, so now I want to have any people any questions on so far? Because I'm done with my demo. So if you have any questions, you can ask me.
Yeah, so
Hi,
Yes.
I have a questions. I saw you using measures. Are they also something like a columns?
Okay.
Because
Which part is in the transform data part or which part?
when you create all the measures at that time when you do all the sales average, you create it as a measures, right?
Yes.
So is it also something like a columns? I mean, in Power BI, they call it measures, is it?
Yeah, they call it a measure. They have calculate columns. So they, you see, if you see in my calculations, there are two things. We have a new measure, a quick measure. So all the calculations can be stored anywhere. I can store here, but for the best practice purpose, I put everything in a separate table so that I can easily configure. What I have seen in many customers, right? When you create a measure, it can put into product list or into sales order, and very difficult to find where my measure is. So for best practice perspective, I put all my measure inside this this table where I can easily drag it, easily make it.
All right, I get it.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
So again, one thing, right? The Microsoft and Power BI team has not created any way to create a measure for tables. So I use a way to I create a date table, right? I showed you a date table. I showed you the empty date table, enter data, and I create key measures, and I host all my calculation in this report. So that if any new person comes, right, he know that okay, all my measures are in under this. They are not under any other tables. I do is a best practice. You can put any place. You can put a key measure any place, but best practice is used in one table. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Get it.
Yes. I will share my PBX file and how it works so that you can refer. And I will write a blog about this step by step, so you can refer as well soon next week.
Thanks,
Okay.
Arav. So I believe you would be going to update in the meetup, right? So since we are unable to access the chat.
Yes, I'll update and all the things in the meetup as well. We have a Teams group as well. SQLPASS. You can put some questions there. We have all the MVPs here. We can answer. I'm into Power BI. Maybe other people like Asif, who is a blockchain expert, and PO is in SQL data and all. So we have a lot of MVPs who can answer your questions. So it's up to you. It's your forum, your place where you can ask some questions.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
It's
Okay.
a nice presentation from both of you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.